Master Sergeant Roy Benavidez was born August 5, 1935, in Cuero, Texas, to a Mexican-American father and Yaqui Indian mother. His father died of tuberculosis when Roy was 2, and 5 years later his mother also died of tuberculosis. Roy and his younger brother Roger moved to El Campo, Texas, where his grandfather, uncle, and aunt raised them along with 8 cousins. Roy sporadically attended school but dropped out at age 15 to work full-time to help support his family. He joined the Texas Army National Guard in 1952 and switched to Army active duty in 1955. In 1959, he completed airborne training and was assigned to the 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. In 1965, Roy was sent to Vietnam as an advisor to a South Vietnamese infantry regiment. While on patrol, he stepped on a landmine, severely injuring his legs, and he was evacuated back to the United States for treatment. The doctors at Fort Sam Houston concluded that he would never walk again and recommended a medical discharge. He was stunned and saddened by the diagnosis and refused to accept the findings. Against doctors' orders, Sergeant Benavidez began a regimen of getting out of bed at night, crawling with elbows and chin to a wall, and working to gain the ability to stand. In spite of excruciating pain that often brought him to tears, over several months he slowly gained the ability to stand with no assistance. In July 1966, after a year of hospitalization, Roy walked out of the hospital and requested to return to combat in Vietnam. In spite of ongoing pain in his legs, he returned to Vietnam in 1968. Sergeant Benavidez's Medal of Honor action took place during what has been called 6 hours of hell. On May 2, 1968, while serving with Detachment B, 5th Special Forces Airborne Group, he was assigned to a forward operating base in Loc Ninh. He was monitoring a 12-man Special Forces reconnaissance team that was being inserted by helicopters into a dense jungle area to gather intelligence about large-scale enemy activity in the area. After a short period of time on the ground, the team met heavy enemy resistance and requested extraction. 3 helicopters were repelled by enemy fire and weren't able to complete the extraction. When the 3 helicopters returned from their aborted missions, Roy voluntarily boarded a helicopter that was headed back to once again attempt an extraction. Realizing that all the team members were either dead or wounded, he directed the pilot to land in a clearing, where he jumped out and ran 75 yards under withering fire to reach the men. He was wounded in his right leg, face, and head, but once he reached the team, he took charge and positioned the team members so as to provide cover for a helicopter to land and extract the dead and wounded. He then threw smoke canisters to direct an aircraft where to land. Despite his wounds, he carried the dead and wounded team members to the aircraft. As enemy fire intensified, he ran to recover the body and classified documents of the team leader. When he reached the body, he was hit by rifle fire in his abdomen and grenade shrapnel in his back. At about the same time, the helicopter pilot was fatally wounded and the aircraft crashed on its side. Benavidez secured the classified documents and made his way back to the downed aircraft. After helping the injured soldiers from the helicopter, he gathered the survivors into a defensive position. In the face of increasingly fierce fire, he supplied his men on the perimeter with water and ammo, and proceeded to call in tactical airstrikes and directed firepower from supporting gunships to suppress enemy fire and permit another extraction attempt. While administering first aid to a wounded soldier, he was again wounded by small arms fire to the thigh. Another extraction helicopter landed, and while ferrying his troops to the aircraft, he was clubbed from behind by an enemy soldier. In ensuing hand-to-hand combat, he sustained additional wounds to his head and arms before killing his attacker. With little remaining strength, he made one last trip to bring in the remaining wounded. Only then did he allow himself to be pulled into the aircraft. His actions that day are credited with saving at least 8 men. During the 6 hours of continuous combat, Sergeant Benavidez suffered a broken jaw and 37 bullet and bayonet wounds. Upon seeing his wounded and battered comrade, Roy's commanding officer felt sure that he would not survive long enough to receive the Medal of Honor, so he nominated him for a Distinguished Service Cross because the No. 2 award would take less time to process. He did survive and was awarded that Distinguished Service Cross. Years later, General William Westmoreland learned of Sergeant Benavidez's heroics and nominated him for upgrade to Medal of Honor. In 1981, he received the Medal of Honor from President Ronald Reagan. Prior to awarding the medal, Reagan turned to the press and said, quote, "If the story of his heroism were a movie script, you would not believe it." End quote. Sergeant Roy Benavidez died on November 29, 1998, at age 63 at Brooke Army Medical Center, suffering respiratory failure and complication from diabetes. He was buried with full military honors at Fort Sam Houston National Cemetery. There are numerous facilities named in Sergeant Benavidez's honor, including the Roy P. Benavidez American Legion Post 400 in San Antonio and the Roy P. Benavidez City Park in Colorado Springs, Colorado. In 2003, the U.S. Navy launched the USNS Benavidez Bob Hope class vehicle cargo ship. If you enjoyed this video, give a thumbs up, make a comment, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel. As always, thanks for watching.